Let's talk about this further with James Rogers, who's co-founder and director of research at the Council on Geostrategy. Great to talk to you, James. What do you make of those comments from Trump saying Starmer is no Churchill? Do you think the UK's been too slow to act, not bold enough?
Well, I think, good to be with you, firstly, but I think to answer your question, the issue is that, President Trump often takes to social media and he's often very, very loud. He's a true politician in some senses. He provokes, he prods, he pokes in order to try and get what he wants, and often he is successful. This approach has been proven to work. I think in relation to the issue of Iran and British participation, I think the government here at least has been very reluctant to become involved because it does not yet seem clear what the end state of this is. It's all very well to attack Iran and to try and degrade its military capability, and particularly its nuclear capability that it has been trying to develop. But then it's quite another thing to reach an end state where you have some kind of settlement whereby the situation subsides. And I think the government here has been very reluctant to become involved in that. And I think that is in part what is driving some of the president's remarks.
Well, it's clearly irked him, and lots of commentary's been made about what this does to the special relationship. What do you make of that?
So I think the special relationship, this often comes up. The special relationship does survive differences of opinion on specific, issues, and this is clearly one where the British government has not been in alignment with the United States, although things have changed a little since Iran began to target British assets in the region. But the special relationship is, very deep and very pervasive, and it's far broader than the situation in the Middle East. I would say actually that the special relationship is more about the situation in Europe or the Euro-Atlantic. After all, that's where it began and it came about and where it developed during the Cold War. And I think that, that remains relatively, unaffected. There will always be differences of opinion between American and British administrations, and there have been in the past. There was a quite profound disagreement between the two over the deployment of British forces to Vietnam during the Vietnam War, and there have been other instances in the past as well, even in the post-Cold War era. So I think the relationship is still strong. It's still sustained through organizations or alliances such as NATO. There's AUKUS, and there's a whole plethora of intelligence sharing relationships between the UK, the US, and their partners. So I think the special relationship will remain relatively unaffected by this.
I think you hit the nail on the head there in terms of you could see the special relationship as an iceberg, couldn't you? We've got Trump and Starmer on top, but actually the bulk of it is under the surface. It's about those institutions that are all linked together.
That is exactly the way that I would look at it. You've hit the nail on the head there. There's a huge amount of stuff that's going on behind the scenes, deep under the water between British and American officials, politicians, that most people, will never even hear of. And that kind of relationship keeps us safe. It maintains an international order that is relatively prosperous, notwithstanding, some instances like we're seeing at the moment in the Middle East, and of course in Ukraine. But that is the centerpiece of the relationship, and I think that ultimately remains unaffected by this.
So now we've got HMS Dragon going to Cyprus. We also have RAF jets involved as well, again in a defensive capacity. What involvement do you think that will have in the jigsaw puzzle that we've got at the moment?
But yes, I think since British assets came under attack by the Iranians, it has become clear that Britain needs to deploy to the region, obviously, to protect its own military bases. There are those in Bahrain, they are in Oman. We have sovereign territory and a sovereign base in Cyprus or on Cyprus. And all of those need to be protected. And obviously, it is Britain's responsibility to protect those, not America's. The special relationship is about shared interest. It's not about necessarily, emotion or friendship. And I think that's a key point always to remember here. So I think I would expect to see additional UK deployments, depending on the strategic or operational situation. The deployment of the warship, it has a very powerful air defense capability, so it will protect the RAF facilities on or in Cyprus against Iranian air attack. It's also a symbolic deployment in that it shows a UK presence. We already know that that RAF aircraft have been taking off and intercepting Iranian drones and unmanned platforms and shooting them down if they are a threat. I would expect to see more of this if the Iranians continue to fire on British assets or indeed assets of close British partners in the region.
Finally, James, if we look at history, how long do you think the shadow and the tale of Tony Blair and Iraq is here? Do you think that's playing a part in some of Sir Keir's decision-making?
In part, yes, but in part, no. Britain has been involved in a number of different military operations since Iraq. There was, of course, the one in Libya over a decade ago now. There have been others as well against the regime in Syria. It's not as if we haven't undertaken any military operations since the war in Iraq back in 2003. However, as I said at the beginning of this interview, I think there is a clear understanding that you need to have an end state in mind for when you undertake a large-scale military operation. You can't just fire weapons and attack an enemy without knowing where you want to end up, in the future, whether that's 1 month or 5 months or a year down the line. And I think at the moment it's not entirely clear what the Americans and the Israelis are trying to achieve with this operation in Iran, and until we get there and know exactly what they have in mind, I suspect the government here would be rather reluctant to sign up to such an operation.
James, we appreciate your time here on LBC News. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
That is James Rogers, co-founder and director of research at the Council on Geostrategy.